Well, that's that. LeBron's got his 4th ring. The Lakers have their 17th. Celtics fans can say that some of them don't count because they happened in Minneapolis. To be honest, I don't really know what to say. I mean, do I analyze this 30-point win or whatever it is? I'm doing this commentary in the middle of the 3rd quarter. I mean, the gist of this one, they pulled Dwight. They put Caruso out there. And Miami didn't have Dwight to attack in switches. And AD just had the luxury of chilling around the rim on defense. And, I mean, AD defensively throughout this whole series was really, really great. And for all the talk about, AD and LeBron and who's the 3rd guy and all that stuff, I mean, defensively, the Lakers were so good that a lot of that stuff, in terms of, who's the next dude and stuff, it didn't matter as much because you just knew that they'd be able to get out in transition and LeBron could just get it to open shooters in the corners and all that, and there you go. I mean, just having Caruso out there as that extra dude with AD having the luxury of all that and better spacing without Dwight in there. On top of, I think Miami was gassed. That's really what I think. I mean, they had to spend so much energy just to get it to this Game 6 that I guess it was just unrealistic for us to expect them to put in another performance. But to talk about Miami a bit, I mean, it was a hell of a season, They went a lot farther than most thought they could get, and they're going to be back here. I mean, I don't know about the finals. They could be. We'll see what they end up doing in the offseason. They got to decide on Dragic's contract and whatever else. But, I'll end up doing a video on the Heat and their future. But as a Celtics fan, I'll tell you, I'm prepared to have the Celtics run into Miami quite a few times over the next however many seasons. And they're clearly a destination for a star player. If they want to change teams, they're going to have cap space after next season so they can take a big swing at somebody. It was really an awesome season for them, and Jimmy has been elevated to somewhere in the NBA rankings of guys and all that good stuff, and Bam is clearly one of the best young players in the league, maybe one of the best players in the league, period. And Spoelstra is maybe the best coach in the league. I mean, you could argue with Popovich. I don't know, his roster hasn't been as good lately, so I don't know. But Miami they're in a great situation. Could you argue that their effort tonight was not as good as it could have been? Yes, but given how far they got, I don't even really want to kill them that hard for it, to be honest. I'll at least acknowledge it, but if you're a Heat fan, I don't think there's much to really be upset about with the way this season ended. So, yeah. Now, if we go on to the Lakers, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is stuff that I'm just going to be repeating from other videos, but I guess that's how it's going to be. I mean, from day one, their attitude going into this was commitment to the defensive side of the floor. It was, we're going to be big, we're going to be physical, but we're going to be versatile at the same time. 2 bigs, 1 big, that whole thing. And LeBron committing from day one on defense. And I think the hiring of Vogel ended up being a really, really smart move, because this team, in a lot of ways, kind of looked like the Pacers teams that Vogel had, just with way more talent, In terms of, at times the half-court offense might look a little iffy. I think we would all agree with that. But just the commitment to communicating on defense and funneling guys into Anthony Davis, and also doing a good job of just acquiring good perimeter defenders. I mean, Caruso and KCP, Danny Green, at times were they not as good defensively like in this series? Sure, I mean, they let Duncan Robinson get open for some shots every now and then. Well, maybe a little more than every now and then, but throughout the whole season, throughout the playoffs, this team was just fantastic on defense. They really were, and I think if you were going to make the pecking order, AD is number 1, of course. I do think LeBron would be number 2, and then from there on, you can just kind of pick and choose however you want, and Dwight proved a lot of people wrong with his willingness to just kind of fit in and not demand post touches and stay committed even if he's not going to be scoring a whole lot of points. And as far as whether that was just a change of heart from Dwight, whether that was I'm going to be on my best behavior because LeBron is my teammate, a combination of the two, whatever it may be, just kudos all around. I mean, this is a team that was insanely talented and yet never played like they were just owed everything. And if it sounds like I'm sending a side shot to the Clippers, well, I kind of am. I mean, that was the other team who it just seemed like they were kind of entitled to the whole thing, whereas the Lakers were just like, we're gonna work hard day in and day out and all that cliche stuff, but it was real. I mean, hell, when I made my preseason prediction, I did pick the Lakers to win the finals, but I predicted them to get like the 3 seed because I assumed they weren't going to go that hard in the regular season. And I think based on this performance right here in this Game 6, when they were pushed to the wall a bit by Miami, and we saw this performance from them in the way that they just ran through the Blazers, Nuggets, and Rockets, maybe it was good for them to just have that much energy throughout the regular season. Granted, we did have that super long break because of, thing that YouTube might demonetize me for if I say. So that definitely throws a monkey wrench into it all, but it just was a team that didn't act like they were supposed to win the whole thing. They knew that they had to earn it. And when talking about their stuff in the playoffs, I mean, that's the thing I keep going back to, right? In the second round against Houston, it's mainly just AD, double team Harden, chase out the shooters. The next round, it's not that. It's LeBron on Jamal Murray a little bit more. In this game, we saw a little bit more of double teaming Jimmy and going to AD at center, and they made it look kind of easy to do that, and Anthony Davis is so good that he gives you the luxury of doing that, but that's really tough to do, man. I mean, just to flip the script like that and just be like, in this series we're going to be like this, another series we're going to be like this, it's tough to do. And I will do a video talking about the Lakers' future, and, there are some moves they can make. I don't really want to spoil them now. I mean, it's not as if it's some secret if you just go down some of their things. Like, they've got their first round pick this year that they can trade on draft night and stuff like that. They got some tradable contracts, and we can talk about that. But when speaking on their future and projecting next season, what is stopping the Lakers from getting back to the finals? Number one, it's maybe not going as hard, because it's really tough to go back to back. It's very difficult. The mental toll that takes on you, where you go through the whole season and you're just in that constant pressure thing. I don't like using the word pressure because I think it's used by the Skip Baylesses of the world too much, but it's kind of the word I'm looking for right now. And then to go right back into it the next season, it is difficult. So they might have to make some sort of moves, and we can talk about that. As far as the Western Conference, I mean, Golden State's going to be back. Clippers are going to be back with a new coach. When eventually they hire somebody, we'll talk about that. Denver's going to be better. I mean, Jamal Murray's clearly a better player now. I don't really know if the Rockets are going to be better. We're going to have to see there, and there's always a chance that some star player is going to end up moving. And then as far as the Eastern Conference, if the Lakers get to the finals, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets are kind of impossible to predict, in my opinion. I'm probably going to do a video on them at some point, because their health is such a big question with KD, Kyrie, Karras. Like, I really don't know what to expect with those guys. We still have to expect the Bucks to be contenders. I know we want to crap on Budenholzer, and for good reason, but I mean, they're still going to be right there. Miami, the Celtics, depending on what Toronto does, I don't know. So there's still going to be challenges, but I don't think there's a team right now that is the overwhelming favorite next year. I think the way this season was, where there was a bunch of different predictions about who's going to be the winner, I imagine it's going to be the same thing next year, which means LeBron could get ring number 5. I'm just saying. And to talk about LeBron's legacy, which I already did this whole spiel, and I've already said I got LeBron over MJ because I think he's a better player. I don't know. For me, it's just extending the lead. For other people, it's probably a little closer. I don't know. I don't totally care about the LeBron MJ thing. I really don't. Well, let me back up. I care enough about it to occasionally tweet about it in some sort of snarky way. But in terms of having an actual conversation about it, I just feel like there's so many directions to go in. It's like, do you think MJ is better than LeBron? Cool. I don't think it's a crazy take. You can do the whole 1A, 1B thing if you want to. I think we would all agree. It's clearly those two and then everybody else at this point. So I think Kareem is the consensus number 3 guy all time. I don't think there's much of a case for Kareem over LeBron anymore. Although sometimes, if you really dive into it and you look at Kareem's longevity, you could make the argument in terms of beginning to end, he may have had the best career in NBA history, so who knows, but yeah. The other thing that could hold the Lakers back from winning it again is LeBron will be a year older, and I know he's defying something with how good he still is, but he looks 5% more human than he did maybe 2 or 3 years ago. His stamina is a little worse. I don't think his speed or verticality is a little worse, but I feel like his change of direction is a little slower and that type of stuff, you know? But yeah, I think the Lakers are going to be right there again next season, and we'll have to see if Anthony Davis gets his extension or if he accepts the player option, and for whatever reason, you know, the salary cap might be screwed up for 1 year. I expect Anthony Davis to be on the Lakers for the rest of his career, or at least the next 5 seasons or whatever it would be. But that's it, man. That's it. Lakers are the champions.